Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today we're jumping right into some of life's biggest, most profound questions. I mean, what is nirvana really? What happens when we die? And maybe most importantly, what actually determines what comes next for us? We're going to use Buddhist teachings as our roadmap for this one, really try to chart out these incredible ideas. So let's start with a question that, it gets to every single one of us, right? What actually happens in our final moments? It's a question that can be filled with a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty, but what if there was a map for it, a kind of guide to that whole process? Well, it turns out Buddhist philosophy offers exactly that. Okay, but before we can even begin to talk about the end of life, we actually need to understand the goal of the whole path. And just to be clear, we're not talking about a physical journey here. This is all about an inner journey, the mind's path toward, ultimate freedom from suffering. So this path, it kind of unfolds in 4 key steps. First, you have to observe reality. And I mean really observe it, not how you want it to be, but how it actually is. Always changing, impermanent, and without any kind of fixed, solid self. Then, out of that clarity, this moment of deep wisdom just arises. You get this profound insight into suffering and what causes it. And bam, in that flash of insight, the things we call mental defilements, greed, hatred, delusion, they get cut off right at the root. And what's left behind? Well, it's a state of freedom, a feeling described as this cool, deep sense of peace. You know that pivotal moment of wisdom? It actually has a name. It's called the path mind. And the best way to think about it is like a single, powerful, decisive strike of a sword. This isn't some slow, gradual chipping away. For each stage of enlightenment, this path mind, this mental event, happens just once to slice through a whole set of defilements. It completely and forever changes the entire landscape of your mind. So, this whole path, this whole journey, where does it lead? Well, it leads to one ultimate goal. It's a word we've all heard, for sure, but maybe we don't fully get what it means. And that word is nirvana. Right. And this is so important to understand. Nirvana is not a place. It's not some kind of heaven you go to after you die. It is a state of being. The word itself literally means something like to extinguish or to go out. Think of blowing out a candle. So what's being blown out? It's the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion. These are the very things that fuel all our suffering and keep us stuck in that endless cycle of rebirth. So when they go out, what you're left with is ultimate peace. But okay, it actually gets even more specific. Turns out there are 2 types of nirvana. First, you have nirvana with remainder. This is what an enlightened person like the Buddha achieves while they're still alive. The inner fires of greed and hate are totally out, but the physical body, which is just a result of past karma, is still, well, it's still there. Then you have nirvana without remainder. And that is what happens at the final death of an enlightened being. It's not just the mental stuff that's gone, the physical body also ceases completely. The whole cycle just ends. For good. All right, so now that we have a grasp on the ultimate goal, let's circle back to that universal experience, the moment of death itself. Because far from just being, a simple shutdown of the system, the Buddhist texts describe this incredibly vivid, dynamic mental process that unfolds in our very last moments. So why does a life end? Well, the texts use this really beautiful analogy of an oil lamp to explain it. There are basically 4 ways it can happen. Your life can end simply because your natural lifespan is exhausted. That's like the wick burning all the way down. Or the life-sustaining karma you have runs out. That's like the lamp running out of oil. Sometimes, of course, the wick and the oil run out at the exact same time. But then there's this 4th, really interesting one. A powerful, destructive karma from your past can just intervene. It's like a sudden gust of wind that just blows the flame out completely unexpectedly. So as a person gets closer and closer to that final moment, their mind kind of becomes the stage for this really profound event. The teachings say that one of 3 very specific signs will appear in the mind's eye. And this sign, it's like a preview. It points directly to what's coming next. So what are these 3 signs? Let's break them down. The first is called karma. This is where a memory of a really powerful good or bad deed you did just replays in your mind, almost like a movie. The second is the karma sign. This isn't the action itself, but an image of a tool or an object you used a lot for a significant action. So a devout person might see the flowers they always offered, while a robber might see their weapon. And finally, there's the destination sign. This one is a literal vision, a preview of where you're headed next. Could be celestial palaces and light, or it could be terrifying fire and darkness. And, this isn't just some abstract philosophical concept. The source material shares this incredible story about a dying patient. The lights in the room are off, but he keeps exclaiming, "It's so bright, so bright." And this was understood to be a destination sign. He wasn't seeing the lights in the room, he was seeing the light of a heavenly realm, a clear sign of a really good rebirth. But then you get the complete opposite. Another patient in a perfectly cool room might start crying out in fear, "It's so hot, it's so hot." And that's a destination sign of a much less fortunate rebirth. It's a vision of hellfire that only they can perceive. It really drives home just how intensely personal and subjective this final experience really is. Okay, so this brings us to what is maybe the most critical question of all. Look, we've all done countless things in our lives, good things, bad things, neutral things. So which one is it? Which action actually tips the scales at the very end? What karma gets top priority in that final decisive moment? Well, believe it or not, the teachings lay out a very clear priority list, a kind of karmic pecking order. At the top of the list, the first thing to ripen is heavy karma. These are the most powerful actions, good or bad, things like achieving a deep state of meditation, or, on the flip side, committing one of the 5 grave offenses. If there's no heavy karma present, the next in line is death proximate karma. This is a thought or an action that happens right before you die. After that comes habitual karma. This is basically the weight of your character, the actions and thoughts you've repeated your whole life. And only if none of those other 3 are present does a random, stored-up karma from your vast past finally come into play. And there's this incredible story that shows the power of that number 2 on the list, the death proximate karma. It's about a boy named Metagandali. His father was so stingy that he refused to get his dying son any medicine and just left him outside to die. The boy had never really done any good deeds in his life, but right at the very end, the Buddha appeared before him. And just seeing this radiant, incredible being filled Metagandali's heart with pure, unadulterated joy. He died in that exact moment of happiness, and that single positive final thought, that death proximate karma, completely overrode everything else and sent him straight to a heavenly rebirth. It is just a stunning example of how critical our state of mind is right at the very end. So if there's one single thing to take away from our whole journey today, it's this. Our thoughts have an absolutely immense power. The mind we choose to cultivate every single day, and especially at the very end, can literally define what comes next. And that leaves us with one final, very personal question to reflect on. If this very moment were your last, based on the habits of your mind right now, what sign do you think would appear to you?